Light, a naturally upbeat adolescent, had always cherished the dream of becoming a successful adventurer, solely motivated by the desire to provide a life of affluence for his family. To set his plan in motion, he departed his humble village and traveled to the city to register at the Adventurers Guild. His arrival instantly plunged him into difficulties. This world was structured by the goddess, who created 9 distinct races, with humans relegated to the absolute lowest rung. Consequently, humans were the constant targets of prejudice, and Light experienced this blatant racism immediately. A beastman adventurer barked at him to clear the road, forcing Light to apologize despite not actually obstructing the path. Upon reaching the guild, he successfully registered, receiving the mandatory F rank given to all novices. The receptionist asked if he possessed a gift that could influence his starting position. Light eagerly confirmed, revealing his power, unlimited gacha, which allowed him to summon objects from nothing. To prove it, he demonstrated, activating his device. It produced a fork card, which materialized into a severely bent fork on the table. Panicked, Light insisted his power usually worked better, quickly trying again. The subsequent results were no better: a rotten apple and a piece of moldy bread. Convinced he was a hopeless case, the receptionist confirmed his F rank. Light accepted the rank and immediately requested available quests. She directed him to the bulletin board displaying simple jobs, but Light froze, unable to read. The receptionist realized he was illiterate, an unsurprising trait given the notoriously low literacy rates among humans. She informed him he was limited to menial tasks like carrying stones and gathering timber, which paid far less than other jobs. Light agreed to the labor. After a full day of exhausting work, he earned just enough to rent a room. He still relied on his gacha skill for food, yet his optimism remained intact. That evening, however, a beastman gang deliberately blocked his path, manufacturing a collision. Their leader roared that Light had soiled his clothes. Before Light could react, the beastman snatched his coin purse. Light pleaded for the return of the money, explaining it was his rent, but the wolfman simply punched him away, claiming the money was a laundry fee. The gang left Light sprawled in mud. People passing by sneered, telling him to go sleep in the dirty human slums. Utterly devastated, Light felt all hope vanish. Suddenly, a hand reached out. Light grasped the hand of the beautiful elf before him, only to recoil in shame, realizing his hand was covered in mud. He quickly apologized for dirtying her. She dismissed his apology and assured him she wouldn't hurt him. Years of systemic discrimination, however, made it impossible for him to trust her. To demonstrate her sincerity, the elf knelt and embraced him, leaving Light utterly speechless. Even as onlookers mocked the elf for lowering herself for a human, she helped him to his feet. Behind her stood a mixed-race group. They introduced themselves as the Concord of Tribes, a party deliberately formed with one member from each race the goddess created, and they were searching for a human. Gera the Beastman introduced himself, followed by the elf, Sasha, who named the others, Drago the Dragonuta, Diablo the Demon, Abro the Oni, the Dark Elf, Nano the Dwarf, and Santer the Centaur. They explained their mission was to end racism and forge a world of true equality. Finding the proposition almost unbelievable yet too good to pass up, Light joyfully accepted the invitation to join. As they ventured forth, Light was plainly the weakest. He required constant rescue from monsters by Drago and Sasha, who repeatedly warned him that any hit would be fatal. Light apologized for his clumsiness. Sasha was particularly attentive, checking him for injuries and insisting he remain behind the tanks. The rest of the party often teased Sasha for being overly concerned about Light, which she denied, blushing as she insisted he was just another member. Light felt useless, only good for carrying their gear, but Drago sincerely complimented his skill at brewing delicious tea, insisting that was a valuable contribution. Heartened, Light cheerfully followed the team deeper into the dungeon. They entered a large cavern with a single entrance/exit. The party members exchanged meaningful looks, deciding it was the perfect spot for their plan. As Light began preparing tea, oblivious, Drago approached and declared he was kicked out of the party. Unable to process the statement, Light asked what he'd done. Garrus scoffed, saying he was being fired simply for being useless. The entire group, even Sasha, turned on him, showering him with insults about his worthlessness and the human race in general. Thinking it was a terrible joke, Light was brutally informed they had no time for pranks on. Worthless trash. When he asked why they had been kind until now, they revealed it was all a performance. Drago explained that their superiors had noticed his gift, unlimited gacha, and speculated he might be a maestro, ordering the Concord of Tribes to observe him closely. Once they concluded Light's gift was worthless and he was no maestro, they were given the signal to eliminate him. Sasha, in particular, expressed intense relief that the charade was over, admitting that the mere thought of being forced to marry him, had he been a maestro, made her skin crawl. Light, unable to understand the term maestro, was cut short by Drago, who declared they'd wasted enough time and needed to finish him off before other adventurers arrived. Garu immediately unsheathed his metal claws and slashed Light across the face. Only then did Light truly understand his mortal peril. Desperate, he turned and fled. The group burst into cruel laughter, promising he wouldn't escape. Sasha shot an arrow into his leg. Light fell, screaming, as the elves gloated that human screams were like music. Gare moved to assault him further, but Drago ordered him to stop, reminding him they needed the death to look like a monster ambush. As Gare prepared the killing blow, Light frantically crawled forward. Suddenly, the ground beneath him began to glow. He was on a teleportation circle. Drago saw it and urgently commanded Gare to finish him, but before the beast-man could reach him, the circle activated and whisked Light away. However, the situation was far from solved. Rescued from the treacherous party, the teleportation trap had flung Light to a random and dangerous sector of the dungeon, and he knows that the moment a monster finds him, he is dead. He begins to think of his family, consumed by the question of what he did to deserve this betrayal. He recalls the kind treatment he received before the backstabbing, now understanding that their friendly behavior was merely a facade designed to earn his complete trust, hiding their true, racist selves until the end. Furious, Light funneled his rage into a reason to survive. Getting to his feet, he swore he would exact revenge on those traitors, vowing to tear them apart with his own hands. Before he could unleash more curses, a low growl echoed behind him. Turning around, Light found himself facing a level 1000 monster glaring down at him, a creature straight out of a nightmare. He realized he'd been teleported to the lowest floor of the dungeon and, ironically, had probably stood a better chance against his party than this behemoth. As he frantically wondered how to fight, his mind seized on his gift, unlimited gacha, and he decided to risk everything. He began slamming the gacha button repeatedly. Suddenly, his ordinary device transformed beyond comprehension. A giant magic circle appeared beneath him, and the gacha started glowing with power. Light didn't understand any of it, but just as the monster leaped to attack, the gacha roll completed. A level 9099 maid servant materialized and annihilated the monster instantly. The fight was over before Light could even blink. The maid, radiating immense power, then walked toward him. She knelt, instantly healing his wounds, explaining that she simply couldn't bear to see his silky smooth skin injured, and healed him without permission. Light was astonished to find himself completely whole. The maid asked for his name. He introduced himself as Light, and she beamed with happiness, immediately pledging by the maid's code of honor to serve him until death. Light accepted, but asked for her name first. She introduced herself as May, the ever-seeking maid, and revealed she was pulled from a super-ultra-rare card in his unlimited gacha. Skeptical that such a powerful maid could come from his worthless gift, Light granted May permission to use her appraisal skill on his ability. May used her Sharingan and discovered that Light's true abilities were masked by a powerful concealment, invisible to anyone below her level. She told Light that his unlimited gacha was far more valuable than he thought. The rarity of the cards it rolled depended entirely on the mana density of his location. It turned out there was a rarity class even beyond super-ultra rarity. May explained that the surface world had poor mana, but the dungeon depths were saturated with mana, which is what allowed her to be summoned. She even commended his bravery for venturing into the depths alone to unleash his gift's full potential. Light scoffed, tearfully admitting he was a loser who couldn't even reach the dungeon on his own. He began sobbing, recounting how his party had used promises of an end to discrimination to trick and betray him. He then swore vengeance against them. May immediately hugged him, saying she could not fully grasp his pain but vowed to do whatever he asked, adding that destroying the bastards who hurt him wouldn't be too difficult for her. However, Light refused, explaining that it wasn't due to kindness. He insisted on getting revenge with his own hands. Since he was currently too weak, he swore he would grow strong enough to make them all suffer before killing them. May knelt once more, telling him that if he desired the strength to get revenge, she would personally ensure he achieved it, stating her absolute belief in his potential. Light could only thank her. Yet, one overpowered maid wasn't enough for his plan. Driven by the mana-rich environment, he decided to use his unlimited gacha again, aiming to summon more high-class maids. His goal was to create a kingdom that would serve as the base for his grand revenge. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.